All right, good to have you with us here on the Thursday edition of the South African Morning. Let's talk about the local government elections coming up later this year. Or could it be next year? That's why I'm going to be speaking to Professor Pierre de Vos in a moment. The Electoral Commission of SA says it's going to approach the Concourt to have the upcoming local municipal elections postponed to about February next year, all recommended by former Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister, and Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, announcing that 27th of October 2021 is the date for the local government elections until the IEC successfully applies for a postponement. The Moseneke report revealing that elections in October would render them unfair because of restrictions linked to the COVID-19 pandemic. But what is the legalities of this? If it all ends up being a decision by the Concourt, well, let's speak to Professor Pierre de Vos, a constitutional law expert from the University of Cape Town. Prof. de Vos, always a pleasure to have you on ENCA. And this is going to be a very clear, it's either October or it's February. Does the Concourt decide, does the Apex Court decide if it's October or February? Is it as simple as that?
Well, the Concourt shouldn't have to decide. This is really a political issue that Parliament should have decided. If they wanted to have this leeway, they should have amended the Constitution or done something else. They haven't. And so the Concourt will decide. It's an impossible decision, as I have written before, because they are really required, they are asked to suspend a provision of the Constitution for a certain period on the basis that a free and fair election cannot be held. What makes their task now even more difficult is that once you declare the election, call the election, the voters' roll cannot be updated. And there hasn't been any voter registration. The IEC didn't do, well, except online, but only 18,000 people registered. They didn't do a registration drive in person, even when we were at level 1. Why not? I don't know, whether they were unprepared. But that now means that I think that the election cannot be free and fair because many people will be disenfranchised, especially those who will be first-time voters. So how they're going to do it and how, if the Constitutional Court is going to agree, and what the mechanism is in which they're going to magically say they have the power to suspend the provision of the Constitution, I'm not sure. So we'll have to see.
So when it comes to this being a political problem that should have been dealt with under level 1 as well, when we take a look at the Moseneke report, the reason given, Prof, for the possible, I wanted to say suspension, I mean postponement of the elections is because it wouldn't be more safe. It's not about free and fair, but more about safety because of COVID-19. So when a Concourt, because it looks like they are going to have to weigh in on this, aren't they, Prof? What are they going to weigh up in a situation like this?
Well, it's very difficult to predict, but what they will have to do, I think the only chance that the IEC has, they either have to say, well, they have now made it impossible to have an election that is free and fair because of no registration, one thing, or they have to show that really the safety is a real concern, and that it will be different or likely to be different in February. In their court papers, they actually say that if it is going to be held in February, they're going to have to impose all kinds of restrictions to allow for COVID and to prevent the spread of COVID. So I think the court will ask them, well, if you can do it in February, why couldn't you have done it now? So whether it's absolutely impossible and how serious the threat is, I think might be a relevant and important consideration.
Prof, no doubts we're all expecting the various political parties to start jumping up and down. There are going to be those who are going to complain that if the elections go ahead in February, that they're not going to be able, it's too much time for the bigger parties to canvass more support. Others are going to say they want it in October as well because they want to start getting the ANC out of power, is going to be the argument there. What do we see, what do you foresee from political parties and the Concourt? Can they go that high up?
Well, political parties can obviously ask the court to join the case if they oppose to the request. The court normally, in a case like this, they would welcome different voices and also litigants who are opposed, so that they hear all the arguments. They will accept that. But we also know from the Commission's court papers that all the political parties complained that the timetable that the Commission had set for the October version is too tight. For some reason, they didn't plan ahead, and so all the political parties are saying the IEC has not provided a timetable, which is required by law, that is sufficiently accommodating of the needs of the political parties. So I don't know where the parties will stand individually on this issue.
Prof, just before I let you go, maybe in the last 30 seconds, so it seems the IEC could come under a lot of criticism here, not providing the timetable. Could this be a case of it was simply they were so busy trying to fend off COVID-19, we forgot to plan the elections properly?
Well, I have no idea what happened. Maybe they were doing what many of us do in the COVID times. We engage in magical thinking and hope that things will be better in 1 month, 3 months, 10 months. But I don't know. I have no inside information. I would rather not speculate further.
Well, I appreciate your time. Either way, Professor, as far as Constitutional Court is concerned, it's going to be the Concord's problem, and we'll be speaking to Professor Pierre de Vos, law expert, constitutional law expert from University of Cape Town, I'm sure many times between now and those elections later this year, or maybe early next year.